From Washington Community High School in Washington, Illinois, ClutchSportsIL.com is on the scene. A Mid-Illini Conference boys basketball matchup in store between the 1-3 Dunlap Eagles and the 8-1 Washington Panthers. Joey Wright, John Camosa, and the entire CSM team welcoming you into the broadcast. And John, when we look at these teams, Washington has had a great season, 8-1. They've won some close games. They've played some really exciting basketball, a lot of fun to watch. Dunlap, a bit of a different story. They've had a COVID pause, shut them down for 2 weeks. They've played 4 games, won only one of them, but they've got the tools, led by Gabe Calhoun and company, and head coach Corky Card. They always seem to play close games. What can we expect on this Wednesday night?
They certainly do, Joey, and I think Dunlap's that type of team that has talent on their roster. They just catch themselves in some games where they've slipped up and suffered some losses through the years. But I think this is going to be a battle tonight. I think Gabe Calhoun's going to do a good job on whoever he's guarding. They got some other weapons on this team, but expect some, good effort out of Dunlap tonight. And then you touch on Washington with how consistent they've been all year. It's tough to stop their well-balanced roster as well, up and down with Devin Vanderhyde and Drew Lewis and Ethan Mounts and you name it. Got guys on that team can score, but I think Dunlap could present a little bit of a challenge early on, but expect Washington to be hot at home still.
Gabe Calhoun is the first player of note that we mentioned. He is a 6'2 senior guard for Dunlap, but you mentioned Devin Vanderhyde first for Washington. He stands at 6'7", a senior forward for the Panthers. Journal Star top 10 last season, Mid-Illini Conference, all-conference first teamer along with Calhoun. They might not be on each other tonight. I think Aiden Derry will do a lot of guarding Vanderhyde for Dunlap, but that's kind of the matchup to watch, right? Star power and star power. Who can fill up the score column better, Calhoun or Vanderhyde?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a battle both ways. And I mean, you can see Vanderhyde get going and Calhoun in his own right. But one guy I forgot to mention too is Isaac Mapson. He's been huge this year for the Panthers, and it's any given night you never know who's going to come out here and score. So it should be a fun one, Joey.
We are excited. The national anthem is upon us. We will pause to honor America, get you back for the starting lineups and the game. Clutch Sports Media presents Mid-Illini Conference Basketball, 1-3 Dunlap at 8-1 Washington, coming up next. Joey Wright and John Camosa and the entire Clutch Sports Media team welcoming you into a Mid-Illini Conference boys basketball battle. The 1-3 Dunlap Eagles at the 8-1 Washington Panthers. Dunlap beat Pekin earlier this season, and Washington's lone loss was to Peoria Notre Dame. And John, we were having a little trouble going back to that one, an early season non-conference game, the only non-conference game either of these two teams have played. A quality loss, shall we say, for Washington.
Yeah, and when the only loss on your schedule is Notre Dame, state-ranked, may I add, at number 4, you're not in too bad a shape right there. So Washington's done a really good job of rolling through the Mid-Illini, and they're going to have a big upcoming schedule with Metamora twice, next Tuesday and Saturday, so provide a test for the Panthers. But, 2 wins over Morton, handled up on Limestone back-to-back nights, and Washington team's just really well polished. I think Eric Schumorn's really done a good job with them. And then, on the other side with Dunlap, only playing 4 games so far, as you said, the COVID pause. I think they're going to come out with a little bit of energy, looking forward to providing a good effort to finish out this season, even though they got robbed of a little bit. But see what they can do tonight against Washington.
It'll be a hard-fought battle. These two teams played each other on Monday night in Dunlap. That was a 64-40 win for Washington, but a game that played a little closer than the final score. So, John, I think you're right. I think we're going to see a good, fun battle here. Starting lineups are being introduced on the floor. You see Washington starters coming out. We'll give you Dunlap's first. Number 2, Gabe Calhoun, our player to watch for the Eagles, is a 6'2 senior guard. Number 2 in black. Number 4 in black is Gabe Garcia, a 6-foot senior forward. Parker Bezert is a 6'2 senior forward, number 11 for Dunlap, joined up by number 13 Brock Card, a 6-foot junior guard, and Aiden Derry, the man in the middle, a 6'5 senior forward wearing 24 for the Eagles. And Washington starters are as follows. Drew Lewis, the hero against Morton a couple of weeks ago, or last week I guess we should say, a 6'1 junior forward. He is number 4, joined by number 10, Ethan Mounts, the 5'10 senior guard. Number 12 is Isaac Mapson, a 6'5 junior forward. 20 is Tyler Bass, a 6'5 senior forward. And the 6'7 man in the middle for Washington, Devin Vanderheit. He is a senior, 40 in white. Dunlap inbounds the ball. You could say they've won the opening tip-off, and we are underway. Of course, no games in the IHSA starting with a tip-off in this COVID-affected year. Dunlap with the first possession. They are going down low to Derry. Derry to the perimeter, and Dunlap will swing it around early, John.
And Joey, another player to watch who I forgot to mention, Loras College commit Tyler Bass, done a really good job for the Panthers this year. And like I said, there are so many different guys that can score, but he's one of them.
Dunlap finishes first with Parker Bezert, the senior forward. And at the top of the show, if we only focus on one player, it was Vanderheit. But Washington has a lot of star power up and down the roster. And we'll talk about them at length. It's Ethan Mounts. Mounts to Vanderheit, and now Drew Lewis. And Lewis is looking to Mounts, and Mounts has a 3. And he has that 3. 3-0, 3-2 lead, I should say, for Washington early on.
We've seen Ethan Mounts kind of find his rhythm a little bit in these last couple games. He can shoot the 3 ball as well, and Washington can do that, as we've seen.
Now Dunlap, its second possession, looking to go a perfect 1,000 from the field early on. Up top, and it's Derry. Derry now behind him to Bezert. And Bezert over to Gabe Calhoun, and Calhoun wants a 3. There was contact, and it looks like, John, he'll have 3 free throws at the line.
Hey, Will, and Calhoun did a good job there drawing contact, and he can do that. Really, really well-polished player, creating his own looks out there. I think he's your key to the game for Dunlap, too, not that they don't have other talent on this roster, but Calhoun definitely leads this team in scoring and shows that on a nightly basis.
Calhoun, the first team all-conference player last year, knocks in the first. And as he takes the second, we'll thank our entire Clutch Sports Media team tonight. Evan Johnson, just to my right, behind the controls. John Michael, best cameraman in the business, is on our game camera tonight, and Josh Schwam. You will see him in the picture a couple times tonight, roaming the baselines, the sidelines. He is taking pictures, running our socials tonight. Down low to Mapson. Mapson corrals the pass. Didn't get his first, but he puts the second back and puts Washington back in the lead. That's the Isaac Mapson factor, John.
And Joey, we've been to a handful of games this year for the Panthers, and he's so effective in the post. That's something that's not uncommon for Isaac Mapson to clean up rebounds and follow it up with second chance points. I think that's key for the Panthers as well in a game like this.
Now it's Bezert for Dunlap, and he'll go over to his left in Garcia, and it's Brock Card. And Card wants the deep 3. A little too strong, and that looked like it was going to bounce in. And now Mounts will control things for Washington over to Vanderheit, pardon me. And Vanderheit off on the 3, and Dunlap trying to make something happen in transition. It is Gabe Calhoun. Who else?
Tough shot there for Calhoun, gets it to fall. But Dunlap likes to push it in transition as well, Joey, and try to kind of throw Washington out of their set defense.
The key to beating Washington, I think, John, is, you got to make them play your game, because it's such a strong system that Eric Schermerhorn and the Panthers have. It's tough to play Panthers basketball and win, and Mounts playing Panthers basketball early on. 8-5 lead for the Panthers on the 3.
It's not a guy you want to leave open behind the arc, and like I said, he struggled a little bit to start the year, but he's found his rhythm in these last couple games. And Ethan Mounts, another another weapon there for the Panthers that can shoot the 3 ball.
It was Mounts' defensive efforts that really keyed the Panthers' comeback against Morton last Tuesday, the 58-57 win. Came down to the wire, and Mounts was key in what was a double-digit comeback for the Panthers late. And that'll take us, pardon me, John, to our first mass timeout of the game.
So it all started right there with that defense that we've talked about this year, and being down 7 in the last minute with that full court pressure. Something that Schumacher and the Panthers pride themselves on.
Certainly is. Right back after a quick
The
word
all-new
from Upstream.
2021 Nissan Rogue is now at Upstream Nissan with available all-wheel drive combined with 5 specialized drive modes, advanced technology including up to 3 digital displays, and the most standard safety technologies in its class at Upstream Nissan in Peoria.
Tonight's coverage also brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois. For all your insurance needs, Jake Weston is your guy. Give him a call, 309-444-4441. And by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington, Illinois. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selection, savings, and more for your trade. Visit UftringChevy.com today. Dunlap and Washington locked in a good one early on, 8-5, favoring the Panthers. And John, right before the timeout, momentum for both sides early. If you're a Dunlap fan, particularly, you've got to like how the Eagles are stacking up against the 8-1 Panthers.
Yeah, you definitely want to come out to a good start when you're playing a team like Washington, and Dunlap showing that tonight, led by Gabe Calhoun, coming out hot out of the gate. And like you said, Joe, you want to be hanging with this team for 4 quarters. You don't want to give Washington any type of leeway because they can run up the score on you pretty quick.
9th game of the year for Washington, 5th for Dunlap. And Dunlap out of the timeout has Calhoun. Calhoun to Derry, and Derry looks to Griffin Card, who is fresh into the game, and Card had a nice find to Jack Tadine, who is also fresh into the game at the dead ball. So the bench playing a nice role for Dunlap early on. First subs we've seen for either side. Drew Lewis goes to town. Last we called his name on ClutchSportsIL.com. It was the game-sealing block against Morton. And tonight he puts the Panthers ahead by 5.
I was just going to mention that too, Joey, going back to that game, mentioned the block, and then followed up with another block tonight. So Drew Lewis, a really good defender for the Panthers, and knows where to be on the floor at all times.
Such a high basketball IQ when you talk about Drew Lewis. That Morton game, the most recent game we saw for Washington. Funny story with Dunlap, we were in Dunlap ready to see what would have been their second game of the year against Pekin. Found out 20 minutes before that game that COVID concerns had caused a postponement there, and then Dunlap didn't play for 2 weeks, so that's how the Eagles have arrived at this point in the season. Corky Card will call a quick 30-second timeout. Very different seasons, though, for both teams, and we certainly wish we would have seen this Dunlap team more. Just didn't work out with the COVID moving the schedule around. But a team that has looked like they're starting to find their stamina and some of their roles and those sorts of things that come, John, with only being in their 5th game in late February.
Yeah, like you said, Joey. I mean, they got the talent on this team too. It's just sometimes putting all those pieces together. They know they have scores, and I think, like you said, they're kind of finding their own. But I think, as most coaches touched on, this year is more of a learning year to get ready for next year, focus on the postseason next year. But you try to learn everything from these games that you play, and every little bit matters going into next year.
Absolutely, and there are a lot of seniors on this Dunlap roster, but still a pretty good mix. Some juniors, some sophomores, some key pieces that we are seeing on the floor right now that will play next year and beyond for Corky Card. Touch on Washington's mix here in a minute. There is Calhoun looking for Card. Card looks for the 3. Vanderheit will haul in the rebound. And Vanderheit, the senior, to Bass, the senior, to Mounts, the senior. 3 on the way, and in. Ethan Mounts drops it in, his second 3 of the evening. And the Panthers have a double-digit lead just like that for the first time tonight.
Joey, I believe that was his 3rd 3 actually of the night. So what a start, though, for Ethan Mounts. Coming out of the gate like this, and you talk about any given night who could lead you in scoring, and so far Ethan Mounts.
Mounts stepping up, has 9 points, 3 on the way for Dunlap, and there is a nice response. Jack Tudine says hello. Tudine, the first off the bench for Dunlap. And John, that's exactly what Dunlap needed. We always talk about basketball. It's the old cliche, right? Game of runs. Dunlap scored first, but then Washington pulled out to that 10-point lead. It's key for the Eagles, I think, to stay in it here early on.
Yeah, and talking about their lone loss coming on the road at Notre Dame. Every basket matters here when you got the Panthers in Torrey Gymnasium.
So we'll see what the Eagles have in store for this possession. And Calhoun will try to take it himself. Bass hits the floor, and Calhoun hits the shot. Physical play. Bass, I think, wanted the charge, didn't get it, but he's quick back on defense. Knows it's a new possession, and he's looking down low for Vanderheit. Pass was tipped by Calhoun. And that will bring into the game. Bessert comes back in for Dunlap, and Gabe Garcia back in as well. So 2 starters return. Gabe Calhoun to the bench for the first time tonight. And Lewis heads to the bench for Washington. He is replaced by Ethan Keenitz. Keenitz over to Bass.
Washington, looks like they're trying to work it down to Mapson a little bit too, but haven't had to do too much inside with Mounts shooting a 3 ball. And
Bass looks for the 3, doesn't have it. Mapson the rebound. I remember talking a lot as Mapson knocks it in about Devin Vanderheit's ability down low. It's easy to forget about Isaac Mapson. He has the big basket there. He's so physical.
Yeah, he's done so much, and going back to that Morton game, how crucial he was in that game, as well as Limestone, and just a very well-rounded player, but definitely prides himself on being a big man. Eric Schulmorn kind of described him as an old-school player. He likes to just stay set in the paint, grab rebounds, second chance points, and it's exactly what we've seen out of him this year, and it seems to be working.
Memory serves correctly in that Morton game. He kind of ran into foul trouble, was limited a little bit late. The likes of Lewis and Bass, of course, and Vanderheit stepped up. He has 6 points early tonight, which trails Ethan Mounts' 9 points. And Dunlap has a nice mix of scores in that scoring column, keyed, of course, by that last 3 from Jack Tudine. It made it, at the time, a 7-point game. So if you are Dunlap here, John, a minute 18 left in the first, down 9, and obviously I'm not asking should they hold for the final shot because there's still so much time left, but how do you play this? I mean, without the shot clock, it always makes these late quarter situations interesting.
I think it's just be patient, get in your groove and find something, but it is going to be a little different too. Calhoun obviously on the bench, they rely on him for scoring quite a bit too, but finding some other guys out here that can get you a basket. But like you said, Washington's defense is so good, it's almost hard to break that pressure that they put on you. So see if Dunlap can find a hole here and score it.
Logan Mason is fresh into the game for Dunlap at the dead ball. He had the ball in hand a little bit there, dished it out. Here's Tudine. Tudine, a nice pass up top to Bessert. Bessert traveled. I don't know if he was quite ready for the pass.
That's Washington. They almost put you in that situation where you feel pressured. They come at you with that defense 2 at a time, as we just saw there, and you get a little flustered and make a quick decision and turns to a turnover. But Washington here, now you're talking about last shot, could hold and play for the last one if they choose.
Washington, in this season, we've seen it against Morton. We saw it last season as well. Eric Schermerhorn not afraid to hold the ball for a little bit. Looks like the Panthers will do that here. It's Drew Lewis at the top, and none of the Eagles are out to guard him just yet, as you see. So it looks like Dunlap is content to let Washington play for the final shot.
Certainly, Joey, and a chance to extend the lead to double digits. They could get a basket.
They set the offense in motion. Bass off the glass and a foul. And they'll call that foul on the floor with 6 seconds left.
And this is the guy you obviously want at the free throw line. We brought up the Morton game several times. He's hitting 5 of 6 free throws down the stretch to help seal that win for Washington. So Bass can knock him down.
And correct, as you see, it's on the shot. His first is short. Bass was not perfect at the line against Morton, but obviously hit them when it mattered. The game-winning free throw with 6 seconds or so left on the board sealed it for Washington. He was at the free throw line a lot late and made the big ones. Makes the second one there. And now what do you cook up here if you're Dunlap? 6 seconds is enough time to get a quality look.
I think you might see the ball in Gabe Calhoun's hands here, playing for the last shot.
It is Calhoun. Calhoun with 3, 2, 1. The deep 3, just a little too strong. Vanderheit holding the rebound, moot point, and that takes us to the end of quarter number 1. 20-10 favoring Washington, and we will take this time to remind you that tonight's coverage is brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois. For all your insurance needs, Jake Weston is your guy. Give him a call at 309-444-4441. Nice, easy number to remember. 309, bunch of fours, last number's 1. And by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selection, savings, and more for your trade. Visit UftringChevy.com today. Joey Wright and John Camosa, the entire Clutch Sports Media team, back in with you in Washington, where the Panthers lead it 20-10. And John, what did you see in that first quarter? The first quarter was really a tale of two halves. I feel like Dunlap started out strong early, but Washington had the momentum late.
Yeah, I agree, Joey, and it definitely helped provide that spark for Washington when you're thinking 9 of those 20 points came from 3 threes from Ethan Mounts, and kind of left him out there and gave him a chance to knock those down. And obviously, if you're Washington, you got to like the position you're in after the first quarter, up 10. A chance to extend that lead, but if you're Dunlap, yeah, you got to play to get back in this game, because we talked about that earlier in the broadcast. Not a team you want to be down to in double figures at halftime. Absolutely not. And Washington ahead by 10 right now. They have a chance to go further into double figures with a possession here. A possession that ends on a Dunlap steal, and Calhoun bringing it ahead. Had it rooted away. And a foul called there. That will go against Washington. That will go against Isaac Mapson. John, a clean first quarter. Only 2 fouls entering the second quarter combined, 1 on each side. That's Mapson's first and Washington's second. I agree, and Washington, as good as their defensive pressure is, they really do a good job of, not fouling as much, but there's another strip. Intercepted by Lewis. Lewis, can he go coast to coast? If only we would have known the foul, and he'll finish the possession at the stripe. So right on cue, the second foul for Dunlap. And we'll get you who that's on in just a second. Joey, if that ball would have rolled a little bit more in his favor, he might have dunked on his own player there in Tyler Bass. I'm sure Bass wouldn't have minded if they'd gotten the points, right? If the points count and he's on a poster, at least it's to your own teammate. Would have been Josh Schwab on the photo credit there. He's down there taking pictures for us tonight. First went for Lewis. The second does not meet the same fate, and that foul was against Tudine for Dunlap, his first, team second. Calhoun, number 2 for the Eagles. How about that? Nifty move and a nice finish. Calhoun can do that. He's shown that through the years. Not afraid of the double team pressure. He can score on you, and Calhoun again. Forces the steal on Vanderheit, and another nice move and another nice finish. A personal 4-0 run for Calhoun. And Joey, such a nifty player too. Just quick with the ball. And seen a couple nice finishes from him, kind of contorting his body and throwing it up there. Devin Vanderheit's not an easy player to make that play on. Keenitz now centers it up to Bass. And Bass to Mounts. Dunlap, bit of a conservative defense here. They're not going to come out and challenge Washington. Washington and Keenitz, they've got it down low. Vanderheit the look at the 3. No. Lewis the rebound. Yes, puts it in. And Drew Lewis, you can never count him out of a play. Can't either, and that's one thing we've seen even throughout the last few games we've been to. Washington miss a 3, but it seems like they're always there to clean up an offensive rebound putback, but really helps out down the stretch when you can make buckets like that. Now it's Tudine, who had a big 3 early for Dunlap. Out of Gabe Garcia. And John, as opposed to, when we saw Washington's last possession, Dunlap wasn't really challenging them along the perimeter. Washington a little more aggressive here. Yeah, Washington, I mean, that's one thing you don't see them let up on is defensive pressure. They could be up 10 or up 2, and they're still going to apply that pressure on you. That pressure, in part, forced the miss from Calhoun. Dunlap had the block, but Washington gets it back. Keenitz, he won't take the deep 3. Instead, it's Vanderheit creating a look that does not fall. Tudine brings it up for the Eagles. Now Garcia and Tudine play catch. And now Garcia plays catch with Derry. Naden Derry, with his size, likes to be in the post, but Washington doing a good job of clogging that lane, so Dunlap will have to kind of step it out. find different answers.
Gabe Garcia, the finish for the Eagles. It's back to a 7-point game. Dunlap on a 6-3 run. Yeah, I don't know if you could call that a run, but a 6-3 start to the second quarter here. Nice stretch for the Eagles, who needed some momentum. They've got it. Keenitz for Washington tries to attack, and he traveled.
Another big turnover for Dunlap. Credit their defense on that one, and see if they can get another bucket here, which would be huge to cut into this lead a little more.
Thought that was going to be our mask timeout. We'll stay right here for the time being, and that will be our mask timeout. So we'll step aside for a minute after this quick word from Uftring.
When you want to feel really good, Blue Roof University with huge selection, low prices, and guaranteed credit approval at Uftring Weston's Pre-Owned Center, where the Blue Roof always means big savings.
I'd like to thank Uftring for their partnership with us tonight. Tonight's coverage brought to you by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selection, savings, and more for your trade. UftingChevy.com, and by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington for all your insurance needs. Jake Weston is your guy. Give him a call, 309-444-4441, and a number that we like to have some fun with. Easy to remember, bunch of fours, last number is 1. After the area code. Joey Wright and John Camosa back in with you in Washington, Illinois. 23-16 lead for the Panthers. 4:53 left, quarter number 2. John, a nice start to the second quarter for Dunlap.
It is, Joey, and after kind of falling behind in the first quarter, nice to see the Eagles come out and surge. Second quarter, making this game a little closer as we expected it would be early on, but, you know, scoring a bucket, and then Washington is so quick to score one of their own. It's almost a game of runs, like you said, and you got to play back and forth with them. But the fact that they're in this game and can stay in this game as halftime approaches here in 4 minutes, it's good for Dunlap.
And Dunlap has a chance to cut into that lead right here. It's Card a little off on the 3. Vanderheit snags the board for Washington. And Drew Lewis sets up the offense. And Drew Lewis goes to work, draws contact. Mentioned earlier, John, a 64-40 win for Washington when these two teams played on Monday. That's the most recent game for both of these teams, I believe.
I think you're right, Joey. And you know, Washington, like you said, it's no surprise that they've won in double figures this season, as well as their defense has been playing and offensively. But you know, Dunlap looking to make that result a little closer tonight.
Certainly are. 23-16, make it 24-16. An 8-point game. 6 points for Lewis. And we were told that game in Dunlap on Monday night was a little closer than the score suggested. It's a testament to Corky Card and this Dunlap program, always coming ready to play. Off the mark, but a rebound and a finish, and one. Count it for Griffin Card. The sophomore for the Eagles, his second year on the varsity roster, could make it a 5-point game with a conversion at the stripe.
Nice take there, and good job of staying alert to grab his own rebound, getting there before Washington could get over to it. A chance to get one at the line, he doesn't, but
couldn't quite finish. Stands at a 6-point game. Lewis to Mounts. You could tell Mounts wanted the 3. He'll take it just off. Ethan Mounts, such an adept shot creator. Might have been my favorite highlight from the Morton game from either side. Was a big 3 that Mounts created. Dunlap off the mark. Dunlap wants something called there. What will be called is a charge. I tell you, we've got the Dunlap JV team just off to our left, and they were very animated early in that possession, and I think what they perceived was a no call, but the right call there on the charge from Card.
Still a good take by Card, though. You can talk about just a little bit ago, flashback, we were talking about Washington's defense not allowing a whole lot inside, and as you can see on these last couple possessions, they've been getting to the bucket. And if you're the Eagles, you got to like to see that.
They're just joining us. It was 20-10 at the end of the first quarter. Dunlap on not a run, but a nice little stretch here in the second. Mapson turns around and drops it in. That's an easy 2 for Mapson, who, as we've talked about, is a strong scorer down low. Here's Card. Card sends it in motion to Calhoun. Calhoun, another charge. They'll wave it off. 2 charges in a row for this Washington defense. Good takes from Dunlap, but nice job staying home for the Panthers.
And Joey, if you're Coach Corky Card, you could be upset with the calls, but you got to be happy with your team getting after it, getting to the basket. 2 tough breaks there, which could have resulted in 4 points. But it doesn't, but still the effort. You got to like the effort there on Dunlap's end.
And if you're Eric Schermerhorn, you've got to like that effort too. Not every high school player wants to take a charge. Washington a little different in that regard. They've taken 2 in a row, and it's given the Panthers the momentum. 3 minutes left to play in the second.
I believe we talked about that Morton game. We saw a couple in that game as well, and Washington definitely likes to hit the floor.
Vanderheit can't turn around. Got his own rebound and one. Finishes strong there. And he will have one more at the line. I think he was a little confused there initially. 3 possessions in a row have ended in fouls. None of those calls have favored Dunlap, and Washington now has their lead back in double digits. That's not to say they were the wrong calls.
You can see how those fouls quickly affect the game when they lead to points on the other end. Dunlap right back in the game, and just like that, Washington's pulled away a little bit here as we enter the final 2 minutes.
Garcia, nice move, and that'll be the 4th possession in a row that ends with a whistle. Garcia 2 coming up at the line. It had been a very clean game in the foul category until about a minute ago. Went into the second quarter with just 2 total fouls, 1 on each side. Garcia knocks the first one in. Now 6 for Dunlap and 4 for Washington, so the Panthers in the bonus moving forward. Dunlap has a little work to do to get there.
But you can see both these teams are physical, and fouls you'd expect would come down the stretch here, but Dunlap doing a good job of cutting that to 9. 2 free throws. Every free throw counts in these games.
This game like a yo-yo so far, back and forth.
Yep.
Up and down for each side. It's Mounts. Mounts to Lewis, and Mapson goes to work. No, he'll kick it out to Mounts, and Mounts has a deep 3. Ethan Mounts, his 4th 3 of the evening. He has 12 points. Gabe Calhoun tries to respond, can't quite do it, and Bass has the rebound for the Panthers.
Joey's only missed 1 but out there. 4 for 5.
Mapson to Bass, another 3 coming up for Washington. Off the mark, a little too strong. Calhoun runs and guns for the Eagles, tries to go coast to coast. No, tipped up, and that might have been Gabe Calhoun that finished.
I believe that was. Got his own tip in. Doing a good job of not giving up on the play.
Usually when they say follow your shot, they talk about the perimeter, right? Mounts has a 3, his 5th of the night. He is putting on a clinic from beyond the arc. 15 points on 5 threes, 5 of 6, as John alluded to a moment ago.
And Ethan Mounts isn't usually, he's more of your facilitator. He's a scorer, but not usually the guy that's going to jump at you and score in double figures. And tonight, he's looking really good, Joey.
Panthers riding the wave. The hot hand is Ethan Mounts. Ethan Kienitz is in for the Panthers. Drew Lewis comes out. Eric Schermerhorn not all that happy with Lewis. Just wanted a quick word, so Lewis will come back in next dead ball. We are under 90 seconds left in the first half.
And that's the thing, Joey, with Coach Eric Schermerhorn. And, you know, he talked about all the things he learned from Kevin Brown, the late Kevin Brown here at Washington. But that's one thing. You could hit three threes in a row, but if you lack on defense on the other end, he'll get after you.
Mapson comes back in, Lewis comes back in for Kienitz. Schermerhorn in his second full year at the helm of the Panthers, of course, takes over for the late Kevin Brown. And Kevin Brown, and you hit on this in your Friday feature a couple of weeks ago, Kevin Brown instilled such a tough, competitive culture in this Panthers program. Eric Schermerhorn and the coaching staff continue that on in a big way to this day.
I agree, and they said one of the things that Kevin Brown passed on to him is that they celebrate toughness and grittiness, and we've seen that the defense throughout these last couple years that Schermerhorn's had, and how well-rounded they are.
And speaking of well-rounded, Mapson, who's been such a presence down low, tried to feed it down low to Vanderheit. Vanderheit stepped out of bounds. Kienitz will come in for Washington for Bass. And And that will also mark the return of Jack Tudine for Dunlap. So, and it's the old question, John, what do you do here if you're Dunlap? 34 seconds, of course no shot clock. Do you hold for that last shot, maybe look for the 3 to get it to 10, or?
It's always 50-50 on these, Joey. Chance for them to maybe not give Washington a leeway here and hold for the last one. We'll see.
Card trying to go down low for Washington. That's Griffin Card, and Card defended well. Gives Washington that chance. It's Lewis. Lewis, nice move, nice find for Mapson. Mapson's shot was blocked. About 12.5 seconds left for Washington to run a play.
And a nice defensive effort there for Gabe Calhoun, getting the block on the other end.
First time we've seen Jake Stewart for Washington. He is in. Panthers sophomore guard. Gabe Garcia back in for the Eagles as well. Mapson, the trigger man. And he goes straight to Mounts. Mounts a 3, his 6th of the night. 18 first half points for Mounts.
What a first half, Joey. Absolutely lighting it up from beyond the arc.
Calhoun wants the 3 at the end, falls just short. 2/10 showing on the board, and they won't add any more time. Looked like it may have gone out with 9 or 8/10 left. Washington will inbound and kill the first half. Ethan Mounts, 18 points, has nearly outscored Dunlap himself, and we believe that to be 6 of 7 from downtown.
Yeah, incredible so far from Mounts, and usually that 18 mark is some of their high-scoring games for some of their players, but Mounts has already hit that in the first half, and see if Dunlap has an answer for him in the second half, but very impressive here on Washington's end, and this is the lead you would want going into halftime.
Certainly is. 38-22. 10 minutes showing for halftime. We'll step away in just a second. But yeah, first, John, if any high school player in any game in Illinois finishes with 18 points, they're pretty happy.
Yeah.
We'll see if they keep going to Mounts in the second half. A lot of times teams will diversify their scoring a little bit and move away from a player if they had a hot first half. But if he can find that stroke in the second, he's looking at almost 40 points.
Yeah, he certainly is. And the thing is, even if they do slow him down a little in the second half, you got to be happy with 6 for 7 on the night from 3. And
absolutely.
Haven't really gotten too much from the behind the arc from anybody, but Mounts is your guy, and he's a hot hand. Keep getting it to him.
We'll see if that's how they elect to play the second half. We will step away for a little bit. You've got the countdown to the third quarter down bottom of your screen, of course. Don't flip your browser. We will be right back. Joey Wright, John Camosa, and the entire Clutch Sports Media team. Proud to bring you live coverage of Mid-Illini Conference basketball. It's Washington 38, Dunlap 22 at halftime. Back in Washington, Illinois, Joey Wright with John Camosa getting ready for the second half of a Mid-Illini Conference boys basketball matchup. Dunlap and Washington. Panthers, as you see at the bottom of your screen, are on top right now, 38-22. Looks like the third quarter will get going just a little bit early, but John, as we get into the third quarter, Dunlap will start with possession. Dunlap was right there throughout much of the first half. It was the Ethan Mounts show. 6 threes, 18 points. Has Washington ahead by 16.
You stole the words right out of my mouth, Joey. I was going to say the Ethan Mounts show, and it's hard to defend when you're shooting that well. And see if Dunlap can try to cut into this lead a little bit here in the third quarter, if Washington has the same offensive approach and uses their weapon, Ethan Mounts.
It was Gabe Garcia to Gabe Calhoun, and the ball has exchanged hands a couple of times now. It's up top with Brock Card. Card tries to create a shot, nothing there, and it's Gabe Calhoun who leads all Dunlap scorers with 11 to Garcia, and Garcia has his 6th point of the night. Nice basket there from Gabe Garcia. Opens us up in Q3, and Devin Vanderheit travels on the offensive end. Tell you what, John, we've got Dunlap's JV team just off to our left. They were very animated in the first half. Getting animated now in a good way. Eagles with some momentum.
Certainly are, and you like to have that support from afar here in the stands. That, like you said, even with the limited fans, you still got a lot of that crowd noise, from parents here, and the benches, like you said, are definitely animated.
Ethan Mounts picks up the foul, the first foul of the second half, and Panthers fans need not panic. That's his first personal. Card inbounds, goes over to Aiden Derry. Derry, the tallest player on this Dunlap roster at 6'5", 3 on the way, no dice from Brock Card. And the Panthers look to find their first points of the half. Drew Lewis. Lewis to Vanderheit. Vanderheit stops, pops, drops it in. And Devin Vanderheit has not lit up the scoring column tonight, John, but now has a solid 7 points. And that's a big thing for the Panthers to see their first shot of the half go through.
He's tried that mid-range shot a couple times, just couldn't get it to fall earlier, but gets that one to fall. And
Gabe Garcia with a nice ball fake there, sold out the defense. So a couple of nice moves there in a couple consecutive possessions.
It was, and if you can get Vanderheit going on top of what Mounts did, it looks good for Washington.
Certainly does. Isaac Mapson, such a presence down low, now has 10 points. And the Panthers force a turnover. Here's Vanderheit to Mapson. Mapson drops it in, easy 2 for him.
Joey, you talked about Dunlap. What do they do to get back in this game? And that's, not something you want to see right out of the start for the third quarter. Washington with all the momentum early.
Panthers opened with, or I should say the Eagles opened with the first score. Dunlap, hold that thought. Ethan Mounts has his 7-3 on 8 shots. Ethan Mounts says hello.
I'm impressed, Joey. And it seems like all 7 of those were just right through.
The Ethan Mounts show back for a second season. We were wondering before halftime if he would come out and repeat this performance in the second half. Well, early indications are that he will. And we will take this time to thank our sponsors, starting with a brief word from Uftring.
Your best used car value is a certified Nissan at Uftring Nissan. Every certified Nissan comes with a 100,000-mile warranty, a 167-point inspection, and 1 year of complimentary maintenance. And this month, get up to a $750 rebate at Uftring Nissan in Peoria.
Tonight's coverage also brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois. For all of your insurance needs, Jake Weston at 309-444-4441. Jake Weston State Farm in Washington. And by Uftring Chevy in Washington. Uftring Chevrolet in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selection, savings, and more for your trade. Visit UftingChevy.com. Back underway, third quarter here, after Ethan Mounts forced the Dunlap timeout with his 7-3 on 8 attempts. Dunlap driving in, Gabe Calhoun draws contact, and the foul. But Ethan Mounts, John, and I don't even need to tee you up more than that. Ethan Mounts.
He's been great tonight, Joey, and we'll say this, still a lot of time left if they can work the ball over to him and get a couple more looks. Think he could hit 10 tonight?
Not out of the he only needs 3 more for reference. Gabe Calhoun gets his first free throw to fall, a 20-point game. This is played a lot closer, though, than a 20-point game.
Certainly has, and like I said, Dunlap still knows how to get to the basket and score. It's just for every bucket, you know, Washington can respond with 2 of their own.
Tyler Bass and now Vanderheit. Vanderheit has his shot blocked out of bounds off Dunlap. And yeah, correction, he only needs, no, he does need 3 more for 10. I've lost count, you know, mental math, not my strength. 21 points.
Yeah, just a really impressive showing, and it's what he's capable of doing when he can get open. You can see he goes to the corner looking for another.
Everyone in the gym wanted him to take it. He didn't. Washington turns it over. Here goes Calhoun, and Calhoun fouled by Mapson. 2 free throws coming up for Gabe Calhoun. You felt like there was going to be some sort of play there, right? Whether it was a Gabe Calhoun aerial show or a big block from Mapson. We kind of got a happy medium between the two.
Yep, good effort by both. Take it in strong, and Calhoun to draw contact there.
First falls to the floor after some suspense. Jake Stewart is back in for Washington. We'll recap it for you if you're just joining us. 21 points for Ethan Mounts, leads all scorers. 7 threes on 8 attempts. 19-point game. Gabe Calhoun has played well for Dunlap with 12. And it has felt like a closer game than 19 points. But the perimeter show for Washington taking over. Lewis to Stewart, now back to Lewis. And Drew Lewis will try to split the defense. He does so. Nice take from Drew Lewis.
Washington looking to slow down the pace a little bit now as they're in a comfortable spot, Joe. You'd say, and keep working that ball inside.
Down low to Garcia. Garcia on the block and in over Mounts and Mapson. Formidable defensive punch for the Panthers, but a better finish from Garcia. And John, Dunlap is not out of this game.
Not by any means, and I think it's crucial here if you can at least try to cut it to 10. They'll still be in the game, but you know, anything above 15 down entering into the 4th quarter, you know it's in the hands of Washington almost.
Vanderheit now to Jake Stewart. Stewart wants a 3. He's got it. That's his first 3-point attempt tonight. He drops it in for his first points of the night. Turnover, and here goes Vanderheit. Vanderheit running, finds Drew Lewis for the alley-oop. Almost. He gets the points. A little bit short.
Almost held on there and set our guy Josh Schwarm right out of the basket. Would have been a highlight dunk, but still a great effort to get that to fall.
You'll get the 2 points just the same, right? 3 for Dunlap, and they respond. Griffin Card. You always want to answer a dunk with a 3. You could call that a dunk. We'll give it to you.
We'll give you a dunk. I mean, hand's still on the rim. He used his other hand to throw it in. It's a dunk in my book, Joey.
Hey, and the points count, as we say, just the same. 54-33. No look pass to Stewart. Stewart in and out. Didn't have his second 3 of the evening. Mapson the rebound. Mapson looks for Lewis. Lewis down low to Vanderheit. And the Panthers teasing us again there is Devin Vanderheit. Smart player, Vanderheit, though. He'll take the points when he can get them.
And now, Joey, we see the Washington team in the 3rd quarter really clicking on all cylinders. When they can do this, they're so dangerous.
Stewart, nice pass to Lewis. Lewis wants to make sure he's got his bearings on it, and he'll fire to Mounts, Mounts the 3 on the way, and in.
What a catch and what a shot.
8 threes on 9 attempts for Ethan Mounts, has 24.
The way he launched it over there, almost like a baseball throw. Still able to jump and get that, take a bounce, and nail his 8th 3 of the game. Incredible, Joey.
Dunlap wants a timeout. Corky Card takes a 30. 59-33, 24 points for Ethan Mounts. Incredible, and we'll get our video back here. Apologize for that, but what an effort.
I was going to say, Joey, when you're in this gym, you know, the history here and a lot of names, and, you know, Matt Roth, this guy, and Ethan Mounts looking like a Matt Roth tonight.
24 points for the senior, and he has doubled up every Washington scorer. Gabe Calhoun has 13 for Dunlap, has had a nice game in his own right. Matt Roth-esque, as you say. And what do you do if you're Dunlap here?
I mean, really, don't have an answer, especially when Washington gets in transition. It can be so lethal, but I think the more impressive thing about Ethan Mounts, not only that he has 8 threes, which is impressive in its own, but he's only missed 1 3. I mean, seems like he can't miss and certainly hasn't showed that. No signs of letting up.
And what strikes me is 8 threes, that is exclusively how he has scored. It's easy to do the math. He has not made a 2-point field goal or any free throws tonight. Card has it stolen away. Vanderheit to Lewis. Panthers running, Panthers gunning. Lewis, nice move, didn't get it to fall. Mounts the rebound. Vanderheit goes to work. A little short. Rebound corralled by Parker Bessert and a Washington foul.
I think right now, Joe, you said, what do you do if you're Dunlap? But that defensive pressure is forcing turnovers like we've seen. I'll go back and use it as a reference, that Morton game, how quick they could strip and steal it and push it in transition. It's just going to be tough to break this.
Down low, Bessert. Bessert can't finish. Rebound, Washington. Fresh into the game for the Panthers is Jamari White, the freshman. Give him credit for that rebound. Lewis looks for Vanderheit. Vanderheit has the baseline, and he has the easy 2. 61-33. The Panthers on a torrid pace here in the third quarter.
Looking every bit of that Washington team that we've seen even in the last couple games. When they really turn it on, Joey, it is tough to hang in these games.
Bessert drew contact. Pardon me, that was Brock Card on the floor. Card will inbound. Keenitz is going to come in for Drew Lewis. It's the Panthers rotating. I don't want to say rotating some fresh faces, although this is the first we've seen Jamari White on ClutchSportsIL.com this season. Getting some quality minutes as the freshman.
Washington's got a lot of good underclassmen on this roster as well. And Jamari White, a couple of the games we got to earlier, stands out on the sophomore team.
Get out of the way, Josh Schwam. That was a weird bounce.
That was almost like a soccer kick over there. And Josh, way to be alert, looking at his camera, but shifted over there as he didn't take that one off the leg.
I'm excited to replay that one when I get back home. That had some speed as it went through the doorway.
It really did. if the doorway's the goal, count that one.
IHSA soccer season coming up here in just a few weeks. Devin Vanderheit makes it a 30-point game.
And Joey, I mean, you saw, early, Dunlap not out of it to start the third, but how quick Washington could run it up on you.
There's a big response for Dunlap. Griffin Card sees one go through. And it'll be interesting to see how Dunlap plays this last 8:20. 20 seconds left in the third. Be interesting to see how Washington plays this. Do they go back to Mounts? It's Stewart right now. Stewart fires down low to Keenitz, and that's intercepted by Griffin Card. Goes to Brock Card, but it's picked off by Stewart. Stewart nudged out of bounds. It'll be a foul, pardon me, from Logan Mason.
And how about the effort there by Stewart? Make a turnover, but then get quick to force your own. And good heads-up play, not falling asleep on that play.
Washington wants a quick 30-second timeout. That's granted. In a game like this, John, you're going to see both teams, I think, continue to go through the motions in the fourth quarter, and it's the same talking points we seem to hit on every game, right? You don't want to say they're just practicing, but kind of running through some things against live competition. And, Dunlap, it's a 27-point game. I mean, it would take a lot of effort to get back in. You probably don't want to write it off until just a little bit later, but you're still going to see both teams keep playing, and, it's not going to resemble maybe a game like this that we would have seen last year or in years prior.
And I think that's the thing that we've seen, throughout the years. Depending on the team, some teams you get a big lead, you get comfortable. Washington, they keep that pressure up all game, and I don't think we're going to see them let up any bit of this fourth quarter.
Nearly a full court buzzer beater from Brock Card, wide right. This were a football game, an IHSA football season right around the corner. That play was for Jamari White. White could not quite capitalize.
So
had his shot blocked.
Joey, you just mentioned football, and we saw soccer already. We got two plays just there that were not the sport they're playing at the moment.
It was definitely a football throw from Card.
And a soccer kick over here from the other Card.
Oh, man, we're having some fun in Washington. And tonight's coverage in Washington brought to you in part by Jake Weston, State Farm in Washington, Illinois. For all of your insurance needs, Jake Weston is your guy. Give him a call, 309-444-4441. Bunch of fours, last number's 1. And by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy Country for selection, savings, and more for your trade. UfteringChevy.com. Raymond R. Torrey Gym in Washington playing host to a Mid-Illini Conference matchup. Dunlap and Washington. Washington has the upper hand, 63-36, entering the fourth quarter, as you see on the bottom of your screen. And John, just what we were talking about there before the word from our sponsors. How do you think Washington handles this? You know, you're probably not going to see the flashy dunks, maybe not quite the volume of threes, but we'll hold that thought as Brock Card lays it in for Dunlap.
I think, as you said, this is a chance where Washington took, well, I say that right now, and here comes all three. I was going to say with some of their underclassmen on the floor, a chance for Dunlap to cut back in, but then you see Vanderhyde, Mapson, and Mounts all at the table ready to check in.
25-point deficit for Dunlap. Eric Schermerhorn, after Brock Card's first basket, might be saying, you know, it's a crazy season. We've seen a lot happen.
Yeah.
Don't want to leave the door ajar just yet anyways.
And when I say, you know, get comfortable, you could have that lead. You get some of your guys that might not have that varsity experience. Dunlap keeping their starters in who've played varsity, obviously. Force some turnovers. Next thing you know, you're only up 15. So I don't think Eric Schermerhorn wants to fall into that situation.
Mounts, a rare miss. That's his second missed three of the night. 8 makes, so he's now 8 of 10 from 3. Vanderhyde can't finish, and Gabe Garcia the rebound. That was a good young core on the floor for Washington. Card wants the 3. His is short. Micah Brewer just checked out of the game. Jamari White checked out as well, as did Cade Bescheid.
Get a timeout there. Washington, Mapson looking like a jump ball, and Mapson just got his hand on it late and able to call timeout there at the bench.
That timeout coming with 6:57 left in the fourth quarter, pardon me.
We've seen Washington miss a couple shots here early in the fourth quarter, but staying after it on the offensive rebounds. Joey, like you said, if you're Dunlap, you obviously want to cut in this lead a little bit more and make it respectable.
You certainly do, and I think that's what Eric Schermerhorn kind of thought. You know, if Dunlap could have gotten this to, say, a 15-point game, and they still could, with 4:50 left, tipped out by Calhoun.
Yeah, nothing's out of the picture.
Exactly. Stands at 25 right now.
I think the thing that separates Washington, and we've seen this in a lot of games that they've played this season in these 9 games, is, you know, once they, I want to say it's around the third quarter, started playing that full court pressure and forcing turnovers, it can be really dangerous.
Well, and it's what we saw, you know, in the Morton game for Washington. Yep. It's what keyed Washington's comeback was the press, the trap, you know, smothering defense late, allowed them to close a double-digit deficit with little time left in the game comparatively, 2-3 minutes. Calhoun trips. Washington has a chance.
We mentioned that, and there it is.
Vanderhyde, and one. A smooth and one. Austin Schomburg picks up the foul, the 6'2 sophomore guard. First time we've called his name tonight. And Dunlap will rotate some guys in. Andrew Erdman coming in. Jack Tudine returns. It'll be a platoon swap when it's all said and done. Cameron Klein in. Judd Matthews and Jack Robertson.
Yeah, it looks like some new faces out here. And like you said, Joey, in games like this, obviously it can be discouraging to, you know, suffer a loss, but a chance for coaches to put in some underclassmen, like we talked about, getting ready for next year, and, you know, to prep these kids for, you know, the next season. It's always a chance for them to get some exposure to the varsity level.
Vanderhyde knocks in the and one free throw, 16 for Vanderhyde. And a couple new faces on for Washington. So, yeah, now this is when I think both coaches go to the bench. They've done so already. Get you Washington's 5 here kind of as we see them. I can tell you that Cade Bescheid is in. for the Panthers. Called his name a little bit tonight. Stewart is in, joined by his friends as he gets the steal and is fouled hard there by Judd Matthews. And the rest of the Washington lineup, Brady Finn is in the game. First we've mentioned Mr. Finn tonight, Jamari White. And I believe that's everybody. Keenitz is back in as well.
Seems like even with, like you mentioned, their platoon swap, still doing the same thing those starters do at forcing turnovers. And Jake Stewart doing a good job there in transition and drawing contact.
Judd Matthews came in the foul. You know, the physicality is going to step in. Still some time left in this most strange season, but still some time left to show the coaches that maybe you want a couple more minutes in the rotation. Another foul there on Matthews. Keenitz the victim.
I agree. In a game like this, it's you check into the game and there's 6 minutes left. You almost play this entire fourth quarter. Really gives you that exposure.
Keenitz to Stewart. That's a big thing for a lot of coaches, John. If not all coaches, is you want to show that the score doesn't necessarily matter, that you can play hard when you're on the floor. That's what separates great players from good players or average players, is that spark.
I agree, and knowing if you sit the bench most games, but this is your chance to come in and, like you said, prove something and get a good look at Washington's reserves tonight, and Dunlap's as well.
Both these teams with bright futures. We see that on the floor right now, some underclassmen and players that will figure to be big parts of these teams when the likes of Gabe Calhoun, Devin Vanderheit and company graduate. Finn goes to White, and back up top to Keenitz. Keenitz and White. White goes to work. A nice finish from Jamari White.
Talking about those future players, and Jamari White showed that at the sophomore level this year in some of those JV games, and will definitely be a bright spot in Washington's future.
Jamari White, 6'3" sophomore forward. Good height for being only a sophomore. I think I mentioned earlier that he was a freshman. That's not correct. He's in his second year at Washington Community High School.
And Joe, you mentioned Devin Vanderheit's name a lot, and his brother on this team as well. Haven't seen him tonight, but number 50 on the team, 6'2" freshman, still with room to grow.
That's right, and he is the only freshman on this Washington roster. And I saw him earlier. I believe he played in the JV game the night off from varsity, but Eric Schermerhorn told us a good story earlier this season. He and Devin in practice, they're getting really physical with each other as brothers do. Some hard fouls, some good contact. Didn't talk the whole way home after practice that day. But that was a day that Braden Vanderheit really earned some respect. Not that he didn't already have it, of course, but kind of showed that, little brother can play too.
Yep. And Devin said, I remember talking to him, he said he always wanted a brother to be competitive with, and says he really likes having his brother out here. And I think that helps with the chemistry too, practicing alongside your brother and going home and playing. And definitely helps the camaraderie. Absolutely,
and you see that in the pros some, brothers playing on the same team. You see that a lot in college and in high school. The example that jumps off the page first to me, Bradley women's basketball, right? The Petrie sisters and the Koenig sisters next year with Tatum and Sasha Koenig will be a freshman. Two pairs of sisters on Division I basketball round. That's maybe an extreme example. You don't see that a lot.
You'd have to recount and see all the times we've seen that through the years. Remember the Harrison brothers at Kentucky had their set of twin brothers. The Ball brothers, obviously.
The Balls, of course. That might be the most prominent example of brothers challenging each other. Don't know that they were ever on the same team at one point, though, and we do have a running clock situation.
did get the chance to, not a lot of brothers could say they competed against each other at the NBA level, which Lonzo and LaMelo did earlier this season.
What about the Morris brothers, right?
The Morris brothers, yeah.
Monte.
I think the list could go on and on.
This is an extent. You look at the NASCAR example, right? Kyle, there are a lot of brothers.
I knew we were going to get a NASCAR reference in there. I was waiting on it all night. I wasn't going to say anything.
Well, and I wanted to talk, and we'll get to that in just a second. And that's the long way of saying that with Devin and Braden Vanderhyde on the same team, it's a lot of fun for the Panthers.
And speaking of which, here he is.
There, yeah, we had not seen him today, but he played the JV game earlier. He's in. Curlier head of hair.
Got hair like his brother.
And Washington will take a timeout. Eric Schermerhorn's not done coaching. And we will use this opportunity for our final commercial break of the evening. Back after a word from tonight's sponsor, Updring.
When you want to feel really good about buying a used car or truck, visit Updring Weston's Pre-Owned Center. The big blue roof at War Memorial and University, with huge selection, low prices, and guaranteed credit approval. At Updring Weston's Pre-Owned Center, where the blue roof always means big savings.
Big thanks to Updring for joining in with us tonight. Tonight's coverage is also brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois. For all your insurance needs, give Jake Weston a call, 309-444-4441. 309, bunch of fours, last number's 1. Jake Weston State Farm in Washington. And by Updring Chevrolet in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selection, savings, and more for your trade. UpdringChevy.com. And the game resumed while we were taking that break, but a big thank you to our sponsors, Updring and Jake Weston, tonight, helping to bring our coverage to fans all across central Illinois and wherever you may be watching, all across the United States, all over the world, could be, on YouTube and on ClutchSportsIL.com. Join us tomorrow night, Clutch Sports Media right back in Washington. It's Washington and Canton girls basketball. That game scheduled for a 7 o'clock tip-off. It was a good matchup when we were in Canton last season. Expect it to be a fun one this year as well. Canton's own Chris Wyndham announced to run the NASCAR Cup Series race at Bristol on dirt in a couple weeks. That's the reference I really wanted to sneak in, and I've successfully done so. Washington Canton girls basketball tomorrow, 7 o'clock, ClutchSportsIL.com. Washington dribbling it out, and as I say that, Dunlap comes in for the foul. That won't stop the clock. It will put Washington at the line.
Clock's going to keep running, so see the game end with free throws here.
Micah Brewer at the line. Gets the first in the 1-and-1. They'll stop the clock to let Brewer get his second. Micah Brewer, the 5'9" sophomore, gets his second. 71-38 is where we will finish unless Dunlap can knock one more home. The clock will expire before the shot goes up. Nor did the shot go in, a moot point. And that takes our final score to Washington, 71, Dunlap, 38. John, your final takeaways from this one. Ethan Mounts with 24 points on 8 threes. I think that's where we've got to start.
That's got to be the biggest takeaway of the game. I mean, Washington did a great job of forcing turnovers, scoring in transition, but to really get that fire lit underneath them, Ethan Mounts started that momentum.
Ethan Mounts has got to be, if we had to name a player of the game, I think debate over, right?
Yeah, it'd be really hard. I mean, hands down, 8 for 10 from 3, 24 points, and did a really great job tonight. Washington, all in all, if you're Dunlap, takeaways, I mean, a lot of turnovers there, and did a good job of keeping it close early on, but in the end, Washington's done this to so many teams throughout the season, and Dunlap falls victim tonight.
It was a 64-40 win for Washington the other night, 71-38 tonight in Washington. We are back in action for Washington Canton girls basketball tomorrow at 7 right here in Torrey Gym. Excited to bring that one to you. A good battle in the Mid-Illini Conference. Washington, a very good program this year. Canton contending. We mentioned them the other night in Metamora, kind of right there. They were tied with Pekin for 5th in the conference entering last night. Washington was 2nd, I believe, so a fun one coming up. And that's where we'll leave it tonight in Washington. For the entire Clutch Sports Media team, John Michael on our camera tonight, Evan Johnson at the controls of our computer, Josh Schwab on our social media accounts. And John Camosa, I'm Joey Wright. Washington a winner over Dunlap, 71-38. This has been a presentation of ClutchSportsIL.com. Thank you for watching.